we are really down to a thin group of kind of quarterback pool that like possesses like really high upside. We got Lamar Jackson and we've got Patrick Mahomes. So the first thing that stands out is like, is the meta going to be sticky, right? Like to have one of these guys that presents one of these upsides. And Mahomes definitely does. We saw him even against the Bills, a real tough matchup. You know, he still had 20 fantasy points, threw for 8.4 yards per pass attempt. And this 49ers defense is just so banged up. And they were already last week without Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Jimmy Ward, Javon Kinlaw. Obviously, Emmanuel Mosley's out for the year. Then in that game, they lost Charvarius Ward and Talanoa Hufanga, who's been amazing. And we don't know if any of those guys are going to play this week. And that defense that they fielded last week could not stop the Atlanta Falcons at all. So what are they going to do against the Kansas City Chiefs if they come in like missing all of these pieces? Yep. So yeah, I'm looking at, Mahomes definitely stands out if you can fit him in. Obviously, we live in a world of a salary cap, so there will be limitations there. But yeah, obviously he stands out. Kelsey's just smashing still. Like it doesn't matter, right? Like this is the offense for the Chiefs. It's going through Travis Kelsey. What's interesting is last year we saw Travis Kelsey kind of run into some troubles when teams would bracket him, really got physical with him at the line of scrimmage last year. And it was like, is he getting a little older? As things like that has not been an issue at all this year. Teams have not been able to slow him down. There's another eight catches on 10 targets last year, 100 yards against the Bills. He has 7 touchdowns. Just, you know what you're doing with Travis Kelsey. The problem thing with Mahomes, we talked about last week in the other video, is he is harder to stack outside of Kelsey.
Extremely.
You're gonna drop some salary if you're gonna play Kelsey.
Yeah.
And we saw Juju get there last week, but like, did that touchdown that Juju scored like really invoke a lot of confidence? Like, this is what we're going to get going forward, kind of bounces off 2 defenders and, gets in the end zone. But he has by far been the most consistent player for the Chiefs in the passing game outside of Travis Kelsey, when we're just factoring in these wide receivers. I mean, Hardman's just really not playing. And then MVS, again, 0 last week. Just another egg. So Juju's kind of, if you're going to stack Mahomes with a cheaper guy, like it just by default has to be Juju.
I'm with you. Kelsey at 8K definitely is at a price point where I don't know how chalky he's going to be. Like that's always like my thing. Like, do you feel like warm and fuzzy with Mark Andrews for a little bit cheaper? I think most people probably do at this point. So it's interesting. I'm with you on Juju. I don't know if Juju is going to be extremely popular either. So that side of the game, I think like if you believe in the Chiefs and the upside that this game could carry, maybe the Chiefs side is one to try and make work, but it's extremely hard to do outside of maybe Kelsey and Juju. So I'm with you on that. I guess what's crazy to look at is George Kittle 5,300 versus Travis Kelsey at 8K. Huge salary gap here. If we would have said that at the beginning of the season, not a lot of people would have believed us. So what are your thoughts on Kittle as we're kind of looking at these premier tight ends? We got helmets for both of these tight ends actually right behind us. So the tight ends in this game definitely interesting. But what do you think about Kittle?
Yeah, big tight end matchup. Well, this side of the ball, I think, is probably the more intriguing DFS side, the 49er side, for a couple reasons. Well, one, I don't know if anyone knows this, but the 49ers suck at running the football this year. They're 28th in success rate running the football. As an extension of them struggling to run the football, the 49ers have been a lot more aggressive of passing. They're 10th in pass rate over expectation, and it's only 1%. But when you're like, oh, yeah, it's only 1%. But compare that to previous iterations of the 49ers offense.
Sure.
Where like last year, they're bottom 5, right? It's been a huge difference. The last 2 weeks, Jimmy Garoppolo has been a top 10 fantasy scorer. And the Chiefs have a bunch of issues on the back end. We don't know if we're going to get Rashad Fenton in this game. We don't know if Trent McDuffie's going to play. The Chiefs have one of the most amazing cocktail stats that I like in fantasy football going right now. They're 29th in passing points allowed per attempt on the season. They also face 41 pass attempts per game, which is the most in the league. When you put those two things together, we got a lot of passing points. They've allowed 5 top 10 scoring weeks on the season. All 6 quarterbacks they faced have at least been top 15 scorers. So you don't even need Garoppolo to essentially to knock down the door and be like a top 5 scorer. He's 5,500. Like, I mean, this is a pretty good spot for a player that's already been a top 10 scorer back-to-back weeks and is probably going to throw a ton of passes. The other thing about the 49ers having a pass rate that is neutral to expectation and being high in the league is that for the first time, we're starting to see these really good players they have get actual counting stats and targets. So the 49ers with Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel and George Kittle, these have always been guys that stand out from the metric side of being like high target per route run guys. So they have high team target shares. But when you look at their raw target totals, they're like 6, 7 per game because the 49ers are throwing the ball 25 times per game. Well, that hasn't been the case, and it's probably not going to be the case here because the Chiefs are going to score points, especially if this defense is depleted. They were going to score points on a good 49ers defense. They scored 20 points on the Bills. They're definitely going to score on the 49ers, and especially if they come in with all these injuries again. So we're going to get target volume for these players we know that are inherently really talented. Deebo Samuel has just an amazing layout here. He's another guy. He's had at least 24% of the team targets in every single game. 10 targets on Sunday. The Chiefs are allowing 24 PPR points per game to opposing wide receiver ones. You can push back and say, well, Deebo's not like a true wide receiver one. But either way, like I said, the matchup just is really good for any wide receiver on paper, and that rolls into Brandon Ayuk as well. We saw his target share because Brandon Ayuk is always the guy people cite his target share. He's getting over 20% of team targets, and it's like, yeah, well, he's the second or third target on this team that's throwing the ball 25 times. Yeah. So like, who cares? But you saw it turn into 11 targets last week because they had to throw the football. So yeah, I mean, you look at the Chiefs. I mean, they're 31st in touchdown rate allowed to opposing wide receivers. They're 27th in catch rate, 27th in yards per target. Like, and that's not even factoring in like the production of wide receiver ones. They're giving it up to everybody, and they've got injuries. And then, like you said, George Kittle now at 5,300. Now his target share turns. That's how he gets the 10 targets last week, right? He ran a passer out on 95% of team dropbacks, his highest rate in a game this season. So yeah, we've got all kinds of potential here still on the board for him, and just get counting stats, counting targets for these guys that we know have all these good underlying metrics. And now we're going to give them raw target totals this week.
Yeah, just looking at some of the PrizePicks overs for Brandon Ayuk, looks pretty good so far. So if you want to grab any of those, make sure you guys use the link in the description and code Holka, get a free $100 bet. PrizePicks in over 30 states now. So if you haven't checked it out, make sure you do it this week. Tell your friends, like the Ayuk stuff quite a bit. Anything else before you want to get to a lineup build here, Reeves?
No, that pretty much covers the Chiefs side. I mean, this is not this Chiefs running back situation is just
right. So I skipped over it.
It's darkness.
Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and build a lineup. I think there's a couple different directions we could go here, but it sounds like you're all over the Jimmy G side. So do we want to build a 49ers onslaught here? That seems to be the way this is trending.
Yeah, let's do it, man. Let's do a Garoppolo team, and if you are still here for the video, we'll try to put some good players around it.
All right, so Garoppolo. We got, I'm going to literally just put our defense in here. Our placeholder of the week is the Jets defense because they are 2,600 against Denver. Not a whole lot more to say about that. So let's go ahead. Do we want to do one of Ayuk and Deebo and add Kittle? Or what are your thoughts here? We could just not play Kittle and get Kelsey in there. I'm open to a lot of different directions here.
Yeah, well, how do we want to do it? I mean, can we do something with...
I kind of want to play Kelsey just because he's so hard to play.
I do too, but I'm curious to see how. Well, let's try it and just see how hard it is. My initial thought is it's gonna be really hard to play him.
Yeah.
So
that's what we do.
I don't know who else we play. I don't know who else we play outside of Juju. So I would rather play Kelsey if we can.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw Ayuk in there because he's cheaper for now. So right now we just have Jimmy G, Ayuk, and Kelsey. For this one, we could always play Kelsey and Kittle. We have that out, but 5,500. I guess what's one of the values that you really like? Is it one of these running backs that everyone's talking about? Is it Kenneth Walker? That direction, because that would save us a little bit of salary, I would imagine. The wide receiver value doesn't look so great so far, at least early in the week, but we're gonna need something cheaper.
Yeah. So let's put in our guy Alec Pierce again.
We're all in on Alec Pierce. Love it.
Who's just going to be the staple, freeing up salary here.
Okay. 4,600.
And I don't know if we're going to be able to make another good wide receiver work here. And Kelsey he's a brick, isn't he?
That's what I'm saying. Like, we could just play Juju, get Kittle in there. Makes things easier.
Let's see. Let's do it. Let's just swap to Juju and Kittle.
Okay. Because we're obviously doubling Jimmy G either way. So I don't hate this. This gives us a triple, though.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry. This is a double. We could triple if we wanted to add Deebo too, but
You can. I don't know if we got that kind of support from Jimmy G, but we honestly, you could because
Salary though, just not playing Kelsey.
yeah, I mean, it was gonna be really hard. Man, Kelsey is a brick. Yeah, he's a salary brick. I'll have to tinker. I'll have to really tinker with some Kelsey stuff to see if I can make him work because maybe a bunch of people running that same problem and they just come off of him, like you said. We'll have to see if we can make some.
It's
Yeah.
tough.
So here,
It's easier not to play him.
yeah, we haven't done a Josh Jacobs team yet.
Oh.
So let's do a Josh Jacobs team. He's going to be immensely popular on DraftKings.
Mm-hmm. So that gets us to still like almost 7K for these last 2 slots, running back and a flex. So we have some firepower here.
Yeah, so we can. We're not gonna. Well, we don't need to force Debo, right?
I don't think so. We could
Yeah, we
get
don't
like a
need to force
Fournette share in
Debo
there. We could get.
Yeah, let's do Sedarian. Let's put Sedarian in here, and we can just move Ayuk to flex or Juju, whichever. Doesn't matter. And then that should give us enough to plug in Joe Mixon.